Welcome to Stories from the Stones. So we acknowledge the land on which we live, gather, and exchange ideas is the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee, and Wendat people. So as you drive by the Brockville cemeteries on Highway 2, you'll no doubt notice some of the large and imposing monuments at the cemeteries. Now, many visitors to Brockville, as well as newcomers to Brockville, have asked us who these monuments belong to and why they have such a place of prominence within the cemeteries. So these monuments were meant to loom large over the landscape. The people who are buried here did contribute to the story of Brockville. These monuments are architectural landmarks as much as they are burying places. And they signify how the people buried there wanted to be viewed in their community, both at the time of their passing as well as for future generations. So let's take some time to explore each of these monuments in greater detail as they can reveal part of the story of Brockville. So I'm standing here in the cluster of Flint monuments, and we'll be taking a closer look at the life of Billa Flint, a gentleman who has not one but two gravestones here in the Brockville cemeteries, one over this way and one over that way. We'll also be taking a closer look at the sort of bigger cemetery stone just over this way, the grave of Samuel Flint and a few other members of the Flint family. Alright, so here we are. So the elder Billa Flint had arrived in Upper Canada from the States and had opened an inn in what was then known as Oak Point. From the historical record, we can surmise that Billa was in frequent trouble with the law. He was addicted to opium and was accused of blasphemy in 1811 for selling alcohol on the Sabbath or on Sunday. He ended up paying a £300 fine. There were also some other rules at the time for blasphemers. One of these rules was that a blasphemer was to be put into the pillory immediately, there to remain for the space of 1 hour with a paper on his forehead inscribed blasphemy. Billa was also charged with smuggling after the War of 1812. He had been caught smuggling 3.5 barrels of salt under the cover of night. Despite these run-ins with the law, Flint was a successful merchant and had a wharf for shipping on the St. Lawrence River, along with a wholesale scale general store. So other people who are buried in that underneath the white marble sandstone monument are Billa Flint's wife, Sally Beach, their son, Torrance Flint, who died at the age of 14, Horatio Flint, Elsie Flint, who died at the age of 2, Timothy Flint, who lived for 4 days, and Shooter Flint, who lived for 3 months. Now, we will see that the Flints have these 2 gravestones. We're not too sure why exactly. There's another account of Billa Flint's son, Billa Flint Jr. Now, Billa Flint Jr. is buried in Belleville, but I'll talk a little bit about his Brockville achievements, as it were, because they tie into Billa Flint Sr. Essentially being a opium addict and apparently alcoholic. So Billa Flint Jr. entered his father's business in the 1820s, but found the constant drinking associated with men's activities in Upper Canada rather unappealing. So one night he suffered a particularly nasty hangover in 1827 and vowed to use no more intoxicating drinks. With the help of a Reverend Joseph Christmas in Montreal, Flint would go on to organize a temperance meeting in the courthouse in Brockville. So the younger Billa Flint ended up becoming a wealthy businessman in his own right. So he opened a series of mills and even speculated in the very brief gold rush outside of Madoc, Ontario, and he would end up having a long career in politics. Now, it can be said that Billa Flint Jr. did his best to, as it were, break the cycle of what we may characterize as an unstable home life in the 19th century. So now that we're sort of finished with these gravestones, we'll go and check out the much bigger monument to the members of the Flint family. So here we are at the other Flint monument. So this is the burying place of Samuel Flint, the son of Billa Flint. So There are some anecdotal notes of Samuel Flint contesting his father's will at the time of his death. Samuel seems, at least from his obituary, to have been regarded as a shrewd man of business. His obituary made no mention of his being part of an active fraternal or any charitable organization. Samuel is buried with his wife Laura Huntington, a number of young children. So there's Clarence Billa Flint, who was 3 years old, Herbert Samuel Flint, who was 2 years old, George Allen Flint, who was 15 years old, along with extended members of his second wife, Grace Unsworth's family, including Florence Flora Flint, John Stevenson MacArthur, John's wife Mary Flint, and a daughter, Grace Javon MacArthur. So you'll notice this is another big imposing monument. The large urn with drapery is a common cemetery symbol used throughout the 1800s. The urn, of course, symbolizes the container used for cremated remains, even though only a handful of people would be cremated in North America in the 19th century. And the drapery depicts either a funeral shroud or symbolizes the veil between life and death. So you can take some time and have a little bit of an explore throughout the Brockville cemeteries after watching these videos. Now I'd like to thank you all for tuning in to Stories from the Stones, and thank you for watching.